Zweig Group invites all AEC industry leaders to the 2024 AEC Small Business and Entrepreneurship Forum, the premier event for small firms in the AEC sector. Experience innovative strategies and insights on May 21st, crafted by Zweig Group's industry experts. Engage in keynotes and interactive sessions focused on recruitment, retention, and business growth. Join Zweig Group for this unique networking opportunity and take your business to new heights. Secure your spot today and be part of the AEC industry's future. Visit zweiggroup.com for more information. The Zweig Group team looks forward to welcoming you.
Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting experts straight talk in your ear. These podcasts deliver great interviews with industry leaders and Zweig Group's 3 decades of invaluable research, leadership, management, marketing, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop personally and professionally, wherever you are.
Hey folks, and welcome to another edition of the Zweig Letter Podcast. I am your host, Randy Wilburn, and I am here with none other than our own fearless leader, chairman of Zweig Group, Mark Zweig. Mark, it's so good to be back with you on another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. It's been too long. It might have been maybe a month or so since we've last had you on the show, but we're so glad that you've taken time and we've been able to kind of find some time in your schedule to talk about some of the things that are kind of boiling up right now and that we're dealing with. And this particular issue that we're going to talk about today is from a recent article in the Zweig Letter that you wrote called Building Trust with Your Employees. It was from the March 19th issue of the Zweig Letter Podcast. We will link to that in our show notes. But you said finding and keeping good people is the number one problem AEC firms have today. And it will get worse if any of the predictions are true about the demand for talent and the lack of supply. What do you have to say about that? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's so essential. Everybody's got choices. There are tons of job opportunities for people today. They can go a lot of different places. And if you want to be able to keep good people, they're going to have to trust you and feel like they're being well taken care of, for lack of any better way to describe it.
Right.
That you're looking out for their interests, that you're a responsible person, that you care about them. All this is essential. And so you've got to have trust with those employees, or they're going to eventually seek other opportunities.
Okay.
And you can't afford that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just can't afford it.
Yeah. I honestly believe that the design industry is headed for a major issue when you look at the lack of graduates in the architectural field and in the engineering field. And firms are not going to be able to be as selective as they've been in the past.
I tell you, I just had this discussion last week with my students. I teach entrepreneurship at the Sam Walton College of Business. Mm-hmm. And I said, and they always they sort of gloss over this whole idea that you'll be able to hire whomever you want in your business planning projects, that, we just hire labor, it's cheap. I go, this is a huge problem. And then you see all the stuff in the textbooks, it's all geared to how are we going to keep bad people out? Like right. The company is the gatekeeper and we decide who is in and who isn't. It's like, guys, you got to have a totally different attitude today. You're going to have to be selling hard to get qualified people even to talk to.
Yeah.
And the whole orientation is wrong.
Yeah.
Companies got to work a lot harder to have good people today. It's not like there's just this great workforce out there all dying to find a job.
Yeah.
And you can decide who you want.
Yeah. I think the mindset, like you said, the posture of firms especially in the design industry is always, well, what can you do for us? And that's the wrong question. The right question is, what can we do for you? Here's what XYZ engineering or ABC architecture can do for you in the future. And we feel like there's a place for you here, and this is how you'll grow, and this is how you'll become better at what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah. And firms don't take that posture. Their posture is, hey, how can you help us?
Yeah. It's so wrong.
Yeah.
It's so warped.
Yeah. So now you mentioned there were a couple of things that you highlighted, and I just want to kind of go through them one by one. But you said one of the things that you need to do, especially with your current employees, is to build trust. And so you said to get to know one another. What are some of the best practices in that area of really getting to know one another, so that you're not, you and your employees, you being the leader and your employees are not two ships crossing in the night?
Yeah, no one's going to trust you if they don't know you. So you've got to spend time with people.
Yeah.
It's who you spend time with is who you think is important.
Yeah.
And so that means you got to go to lunch with people. You got to sit down and talk with them. You got to go visit them at their office.
Yep.
Certainly some of the social gatherings for the company, those can be important. There are a lot of ways to do it, but you've got to be someone who gets out there and gets to know people.
Yeah.
You can't just sit in your office and be the Lord and master who rules from afar.
Yeah.
It's not good. If you got a multi-office operation, you got to go see those people.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I know you've been a big fan of kind of management by walking around, and you've always talked about that and the idea of getting out of your corner office to go see people. What advice would you give to individuals that have like a number of employees working in remote settings, not necessarily a remote office where you would go and visit 10 or 12 people, but for instance, we just met with a client yesterday in the Oklahoma area where they actually just recently put a person in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And it's somebody that used to work for them in another office, and now they're working in Phoenix and in a remote work location.
Sure.
Now, they ultimately hope that office will grow, but if you were the leader of that organization, how would you manage that particular individual that's in that situation?
It's hard. I mean, you can't just always go see people when you're not getting paid to do so.
Right.
But of course, it's best if you can work on jobs across company lines.
Yeah.
That's the best way to really get to know people. But you got to call them. You got to talk with them.
Yeah.
If nothing else, you got to talk to them on the phone.
Yeah. I thought it was genius that this company even brought this person in for a day training. We did a 1 day project management training with them, and they brought this person in from Phoenix. They brought 2 other people in from Manhattan, Kansas. I mean, I thought that was kind of cool that they had the foresight to do that.
Yeah. That's a good thing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to bring them back to the main office, just like you have to go see them.
Exactly. And I know that's always been big for you. I know even here at Zweig Group, it's always been important for people to understand the culture of the company, and it all emanates from one place and goes out from there. And even when we were based in Boston, we used to bring our folks from San Francisco over, people that we had out in Kansas City, people that we had in DC. We brought everybody into the fold and spent time with them.
Yeah.
Which is
costly.
really, it is costly, but it's worth it.
I know.
Because I always felt like I knew everybody in the company.
Yeah.
There was, and I had friends, and I still have friends to this day because of those relationships that we built up.
That's your nature, though. But yeah.
But that's okay. I mean,
I think it's important. I really do.
It is. It definitely is. So, how about including them in the business planning process? I know that a lot of firms keep everything close to the vest. They don't like to share too much information because they don't want a mutiny on their hands. But your advice has always been from an open book management mindset and the idea that if you get your people to buy into what you're doing from a leadership perspective, you'll have a much smoother process. Yeah. But I mean, what are your thoughts there on that whole business planning?
I mean, sure. The more people you can involve, the more they feel like they know what's going on, and there's no hidden agendas, and there's no stuff that they don't understand. I mean, they get some context.
Yeah.
For why the company is doing what it's doing. And it's very important, I think, to do that.
Okay. Okay.
So bring them all together, get everybody's input. It's crucial stuff.
And then once you get that plan put together, share that with everybody so that everybody's clear and understands what we're doing next as an organization.
Yeah, I mean, give it to every new employee as well.
Right. So they understand
stuff.
it.
Sure.
Yeah. And then you also said that, keeping them informed about the financial condition of the business has always been an important part for you. And that's all I've ever known is open book management. And what percentage of firms would you say in the design industry practice open book management, if you had to guess?
True open book management? Gosh, I'd say probably less than 10%.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're still I tell you, recently we were at a company where the owners don't even get all the financials. The owners don't.
How does that work?
They just don't give it to them.
Really?
Yeah. It's mind-boggling.
So that gives a whole new meaning on need to know, doesn't it?
I don't understand it. I really don't. Studies have shown over and over, if you don't tell your people how you're doing and you're not doing well, they think you're doing worse than you are.
Or you're stealing from them.
Yeah. Or if you're doing really well, then they think you're making so much money, it's insane. And they have total gross, misconceptions about how much money you're making. Share it, explain it, train people in the business.
Yeah.
Get them tuned into the metrics. The more people know, the better off they're going to be. Better off you're going to be.
What is the number when you do go into firms and you suggest this whole idea of really open book management? What is the number one rebuke that you get in reference to that?
They won't understand it.
Okay. That's it.
They won't understand it, or they'll think we're doing too well or whatever. They'll think they deserve more, or they say, well, I don't want to tell everybody what everybody else makes. Well, I didn't say that.
Right.
That's the other one. They automatically assume that means everyone knows what everyone earns.
Right.
Not saying that.
Yeah. Because we've never operated that way, but we still know what's going on and how well we're doing.
Of course.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think that's something big that folks need to keep in mind, especially with getting your business plan together and sharing that information out with as many people as possible. And then certainly, if you can operate from an open book management perspective or want some ideas about how to go about introducing that into your firm, you can certainly reach out and reach out to Mark. I'm sure he would be more than happy to give you some ideas. And
sure.
I mean, he's written a number of articles in the Zweig letter about that. And so as you subscribe to the Zweig letter, which is a gift that we're going to give you at the end of this episode, you can go back into the archives and look up open book management. And Mark has written numerous articles on that. He has talked about it ad nauseum to anyone that will listen. And he's certainly a huge proponent of it. And if you've always thought about it but have never implemented it and are looking for a way and a means to do that, Mark Zweig and Chad Kleinens, Jamie Claire Kaiser will certainly and the rest of the team here at Zweig Group will certainly give you some benchmark information and data to work with, and also show you some ways to implement that. So we are always here to help you to be more successful. So anything that we can do as far as that's concerned, it certainly is available.
It's one of the most important things you can do, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
I don't know why people don't do it.
Yeah.
It really helps build that trust.
And you have a ton of examples of firms that have done it and have just seen a total transformation in the workplace.
Well, you're training your next tier of managers along the way by doing it.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was recently at a firm where we talked about it, and I know that the firm, ideally, they want to do it, and all the employees are so certainly open to it, but it seems so foreign to them because, everywhere they've been, they've never had that kind of experience. Everything is kept close to the vest, and nobody really knows what's going on. I just don't think that's a healthy environment, and you can argue with me all you want about that, but
I won't argue with you.
Well, I know you would, but I mean, people listening to this might say, "Oh, I don't really agree with that," and that's fine. Different strokes for different folks. I just think that over time, you're gonna data. I mean, the democratization of data is here, everybody has information. And if you choose not to share information in a period and a time when everybody has access to so much information, it kind of leaves people wondering what's really going on.
Yeah. Or misinformation.
Or misinformation, right.
Takes the place of a lack of information.
Or is that fake news? I don't know.
There's a lot of misinformation.
Right. Exactly. So, all right. Well, the last thing that you mentioned about this, and this is something that I know is really big for you, and I know we've dealt with this in the past, but you say don't talk about other employees, past or present. Want to elaborate on that, because I know that's something that some firms need to hear.
It is. It's very tempting to do, and I can't say I've always followed my own advice in this regard.
You've gotten better. You've improved over time.
I am. I'm getting better over time. Eventually, even an old dog learns some new tricks.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't do any good. It makes people feel bad.
Yeah. And
it makes them feel like, gee, you're saying things about them.
Right.
And I think a lot of companies, for whatever reason, when anybody leaves, they tend to vilify them. It's like, well, they left, it was good they left, we didn't like them anyway. They were bad, blah, 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 blah. And I think that's a very unhealthy climate to create.
It is.
It's just don't vilify. Be friends with everybody. Maybe you'll want to rehire them in the future. It's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
I think, too, it makes it more difficult to get rid of people who aren't cutting the mustard, because if it's just simply a matter of they're good people, but they don't work on the team, maybe then it's easier for you to make adjustments to the team instead of they're terrible people and we need to execute them.
Right. Yeah. I think it's tough.
You're not giving them a death sentence.
Right. Right.
This situation didn't work out at this point in time.
Yeah.
And so that may make it easier for management to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And feel better and try to help that person, and everybody can come out better in the end.
Yeah.
And I just think employees don't like it when they see you trash talking.
Right. Exactly. It doesn't work. And I know, I mean, I've experienced it. I've been on the chopping block. I've had to put other people on the chopping block, both past and present. So it's never fun. And certainly you don't want to sit around. I mean, who has time to sit around and gossip about somebody that used to work here? I mean, to me, that's just idle chit chat that's wasted when you could be talking about, well, what are we doing next? What's the next step? Because your goal and your focus should really be on the people that are in front of you, not the people not the people that came through the door that are no longer there. Bless them and let them move on to whatever else they're going to do. And you focus on what you need to focus on.
Be positive, be helpful, stay friends. Who knows when that's going to come back to benefit you.
Listen, I tell people all the time, you never say never, and you don't burn bridges. I mean, you have to make a decision to treat people right.
In my other business, I've got some people who've worked for me on 3 separate occasions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, why sometimes the timing's not right. You don't have the right work for their skill set.
Yep.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then,
or they could be going through something personally.
Exactly. It's just,
which has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. And they just get all worked up.
Right.
And think they got to do something different. And they find out the grass isn't greener on the other side. I mean, there's a million different things that can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, there you have it, folks. There are several quality ways to build trust with your employees. Obviously, you want to get to know folks. You want to include them in the business planning process. As Mark mentioned, you also want to share that business plan with them, figure out ways to keep them informed of the financial condition of the business. And if you want to employ some type of open book management process, you can do that as well. You don't want to also talk negatively about past employees or current employees, obviously, for that matter. That should be a no-brainer. But just as a reminder, you never talk negative about the people that you currently have on your team. And certainly you want to be positive about the situation, but people will respect you from a leadership position if you're constantly looking after their best interests. And those are simply some of the best ways that you can build trust with your employees, especially in the design industry. And as we said before, listen, it's really tough finding good people. And if you want to find and keep good people, you have to treat them right. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, Mark. I don't know if you have any final thoughts on that subject that you wanted to close out with.
No, I think again that it's important to realize that no one's going to trust you if they don't know you.
If they don't know you,
you've got to share yourself with people, and you've got to learn about them.
Yeah,
you got to ask a lot of questions. You got to show a lot of interest.
Yeah,
because people won't always seek you out if you're the boss.
Yeah. That's true.
Some of them are afraid of you.
Yeah, I was just telling Chad that Chad Kleinen's our president and CEO that yesterday. I said, sometimes people are, and I wasn't speaking specifically of him, but sometimes if you go by a leader's office and they have their head down and they're not looking up, and you think, oh, I'm afraid I don't want to go bother them because they're never going to talk to me, and it's like you should talk to them, and a good leader should be able to look up from their desk from time to time and just say, hey, come on in, let's talk, and let's chat. Because if you act as if you're always too busy and you don't have time for them, they're never going to come to you when the what's about to hit the fan.
Right. And then they're not going to trust you.
And I know I love this theme, and we've talked about it a lot in some of our Z Learning courses, which you and I have been recording recently, but just this whole idea of know, like, and trust.
Yep, it works.
I mean, it really does work. We may have to do a complete episode on that because there's just something about that. If people know you, if they like you, they'll trust you. And trust me, in this industry, no pun intended, you need trust in order to put your best product out there, to put your best service out there. You need people that you can trust that are going to go into meetings with clients and stakeholders and represent your organization properly. You need to create that type of operation where everybody is bought in and everybody understands and trusts you as a leader, and that you trust them as individuals that are going to see the company mission come to pass. So I certainly want to encourage you to take that for what it's worth, and definitely try to make that happen. Listen, folks, I have a special gift for you. If you haven't already heard, the Zweig Letter Digital Edition is free. That's right. You've heard it right here. FREE. Just go to zweiggroup.com, click on the Zweig Letter icon at the top of the page, and that will take you to a simple sign-up sheet where all you have to do is put your email address in there. We don't need your blood type. We don't need your phone number. We don't need anything but your email address. And you'll start getting every Monday morning, fresh off the presses, a digital subscription to the Zweig Letter. The Zweig Letter has run continuously since 1992. And I personally think, and although I'm biased because I work here, it is the best 12-page newsletter for the design industry that you're going to find. It's chock full of information. Mark Zweig writes a regular article, one of which we talk about on this podcast on a regular basis. Richard Massey is the managing editor. Christy Zweig, myself, Chad Kleinens, Jamie Claire Kaiser, Will Swearingen, everybody that you can think of that's here, that's a subject matter expert, that's out here doing the work on a daily basis, writes for this newsletter. And on top of that, I mean, we have people like Ed Friedrichs and George Christodoulou and so many other leaders and individuals that have been around this industry for years and have seen every, permutation of how this industry has operated. They write for the Zweig Letter. So I really want to encourage you, get your copy now. It is free. You don't have to get a physical copy of it. You can get a digital copy and have it sent to your email inbox every Monday morning. We promise not to spam you with a whole bunch of other stuff. We just want to put the Zweig Letter in your hands. It runs about 48 weeks a year. We take a couple of weeks off during the summer, but yeah, it's an amazing resource to have, and we certainly want to encourage you, and we appreciate you, our listening audience here on the Zweig Letter podcast, and so that's just our gift to you. Secondly, I just want to encourage you, subscribe to the Zweig Letter podcast. If this is your first time listening to this, I want you to subscribe now. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast, you can subscribe to the Zweig Letter podcast. And if you can't find it somewhere through a resource that you prefer to use for your podcast, let us know and we'll make sure we get it posted there. But it's certainly easy to do, and you can easily download and go online to our website at zweiggroup.com to look at past episodes of the Zweig Letter podcast. You can listen to them. We have over 100 episodes now. And so So we'd really appreciate it if you'd become a normal fixture of our listening audience. Also, when you get a chance, if you listen to the podcast, we'd love a review. Let us know what you think. We'd love a 5-star review. Give us a heads up on what your feedback is on the podcast and how it has impacted you one way or the other. And we'd love to hear from you and just get your thoughts. So thank you so much for listening to the Zweig Letter podcast. And Mark and I really appreciate you guys. And just remember, we exist to make you, all of you listening to this, more successful. Let us know if we can ever help in any way, shape, or form. All our contact information is at the bottom of the show notes. You can also reach us at zweiggroup.com. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter podcast episode. If you want more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about M&A, strategic planning, HR, and marketing your firm, subscribe now to the digital version of the Zweig Letter free of charge. Just visit thezweigletter.com/subscribe and leave your email address. Your free subscription will begin immediately.